Egypt previously was ruled by the Ayyubid Empire, that Saladin's dynasty, but it's not anymore. And the reason for that is that the Ayyubids, during the 13th century, purchased large numbers of young men as enslaved people. And they could purchase enslaved people in large numbers, particularly from the Black Sea region, because the Mongols were selling them by the tens of thousands. The Mongols are conquering the entire area, rounding people up, taking them to the Crimea and selling them as enslaved people to whoever wants to buy them. And the Egyptians buy lots of them, the Ayyubids. And so these enslaved people are brought in, they are trained to become elite warriors, and then they fight in the Ayyubid army. But there comes a tipping point when these regiments of enslaved people, called Mamluk regiments, when those Mamluk regiments become a little bit too big, a little bit too powerful, and they begin to realize that they don't have to follow orders at all. In fact, they're more powerful than anyone else. And so in 1250, while there's another major crusade going on in Egypt, the Seventh Crusade, the Mamluks very much are among those who win this campaign and defeat the crusading army. And immediately after the defeat of the crusading army, the Mamluks execute or murder the reigning sultan. And then soon afterwards, they take power for themselves to create one of the most extraordinary states of the medieval era, the Mamluk Sultanate. And it's extraordinary because it's a sultanate ruled by enslaved people, ruled by the Mamluks. But the Mamluks are exceptionally capable warriors. And what makes them so interesting is that they are from Central Asia themselves. Because when the Mongols conquered Central Asia and before they sold these people in sort of northern coast of the Black Sea region, they had been raised as nomadic steppe nomads. So their culture and way of life and their warcraft is the same as the Mongols, except that being centered in Egypt, they have access to enormous wealth. So they can afford the best horses, the best equipment, etc. And this is the remaining empire. This is the last real bastion of true military strength in the Middle East in 1260, when the Mongols arrive in the region. The Mamluks, they do not have a particularly large army. They're very powerful. They're very good warriors. But they can probably manage about 12,000 troops. Now, the Mongol invasion army into Syria in 1260 under Hulagu is about 100,000 strong. And this is where the Mamluks do something a little bit strange. It's something that no one else did. And that is that they don't wait to be attacked. Now, normally, the way that other empires or kingdoms or sultanates respond to the Mongols is they do one of two things. They submit to the Mongols and therefore avoid being invaded, or they conduct diplomacy with the Mongols, and when that diplomacy fails, they build up their defenses and try and defend their borders when the Mongols attack. But the Mamluks do something completely different. The Mongols send emissaries to the Mamluks, submit to us or we'll kill you, and the Mamluks execute the Mongol emissaries and shave the beards from the ones they spare, which is an enormous insult, massive insult.
Usually not a good move, as we've discovered in the previous episode.
Well, unless you are determined to resist, because if you do that, from that point, every single person in the Mamluk Empire knows that there can be no negotiation.
Game on.
The only thing you can do now is fight, because the Mongols won't care what you say. They won't care if you submit. The level of insult you've offered means that you have to defend yourself, you have to fight, or the Mongols will kill all of you. And there is no other course of action here at all. But the Mamluks don't wait to be attacked. They gather their armies and march out to attack the Mongols, even as the Mongols are attacking. And there are various Mamluk emirs who are saying that this is obviously suicide. But nonetheless, it's what they do. And so they march out to fight the Mongols. And this is where events work out in their favor, because the Mongols aren't used to being attacked. They're the ones who attack. They're not attacked themselves. And so they don't take many precautions against this kind of situation. Now, at this moment, the great Khan in Mongolia dies. And so his brother, Hulagu, has a strong incentive to get back to Mongolia quickly, or at least to be close, to make sure his voice is heard for who's going to be the next Mongol great Khan. So just as the Mamluks are gathering their armies to attack, Hulagu leaves the Middle East, or he moves eastwards. Not the Middle East, he leaves Syria into Azerbaijan to be closer to what's happening in terms of the Mongol succession. And he leaves behind a garrison of 20,000 troops in Syria to hold the area. And the Mamluks don't know this, but the Mamluks advance first to the Crusader states. And they say to the rulers of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, fight with us against the Mongols.
Pretty reasonable.
It's reasonable. And of course, this is by no means the first time that Muslims and Crusaders have worked together. This happened many times. So it's not unusual. And the Kingdom of Jerusalem plays a cautious game. The rulers of the Kingdom of Jerusalem say to the Mamluks, we'll provide you with food and we'll sell you horses. So we will assist you, but we won't fight alongside you because we don't think you're going to win. But you can see they're trying to sort of hedge their bets.
Also pretty reasonable.
They can say
given the state of things. Yeah.
If the Mongols win, the Mongols we had nothing to do with it. And the Mamluks, the Mamluks then move on from the Kingdom of Jerusalem, and it's then that they attack the Mongols near Lake Tiberias, that's the Sea of Galilee. And there's a battle between the Mamluk army and the Mongol garrison of 20,000 troops, which the Mamluks win at a battle called Ain Jalut. It's commonly considered to be one of the most important battles in history, and it sort of is. But, of course, for the Mamluks, this is a tremendous victory. They've defeated the Mongols, celebration, all the rest of it.
Just for clarification, they didn't defeat the entire 100,000 strong army, just the garrison.
No, just the garrison. But as you've already picked up, there is a problem with this victory, which is that, of course, the Mongols, as soon as they learn what's happened, Hulagu swears rapid revenge with the full weight of his army. So you could say, well, the Mamluks, their only achievement is to provoke the Mongols to see them as their primary enemy and to focus all their energies onto defeating the Mamluks. And so this is the crucial moment. The Mamluks are the only state left in the Middle East strong enough to fight the Mongols, and the Mongols have sworn that they will attack the Mamluks. It's the turning point of the whole thing. But there's another process at work here. And this is that when the Mongols conquer parts of the world, the various different imperial families in the Mongol Empire, and those families are the descendants of the various sons of Chinggis Khan. So Chinggis Khan had several sons, and Tuloy and Jebi and Ogadai, various others, and they all have their own dynasty attached to them. And the Mongol Empire is divided up into different zones of jurisdiction owned by various different families. So, for example, much of what we would call Russia and Eastern Europe is in the area of jurisdiction, or Ulu as they were known, of Jebi and Jebi's sons. The Middle East is also part of Jebi's Ulu. Jebi, or to be more precise, Jebi's descendants by this point consider the Middle East to be part of their jurisdiction. But when Hulagu conquered the region, he's from a different Ulu, a different imperial family. And so the Golden Horde, as Jebi's descendants are known, they demand that Hulagu acknowledges that they are overlords to the Middle East. Hulagu has to recognize this is their territory. This is their part of the Mongol Empire. He has no right to call this part of the Middle East his own empire. They own it, so he has to acknowledge that he rules at their favor. But he refuses to do this. He refuses to acknowledge the Ulu of Jebi, or the Golden Horde's overlordship. He even executes various commanders from that Ulu, and so it's going to be war. It's going to be war between the Golden Horde in the north, Jebi's Ulu, and Hulagu's territory in the Middle East that he's conquered, which becomes known as the Ilkhanate. And so just as Hulagu is swearing revenge on the Mamluks, and just as the Golden Horde is preparing to re-invade Hungary and Poland and Western Christendom, they go to war with each other.
Another lucky break.
A lucky break for the Mamluks, lucky break for Western and Eastern for Western Christendom. And so for much of the next 20 years, the Golden Horde, Jebi's Ulu, and Hulagu's Ilkhanate in the south, they're fighting each other in the Caucasus. And that means that it's over 20 years before an army attacks the Mamluk Empire, because they're so busy and caught up with their own disputes. And so in the interim period, in that 20-year period, the Mamluks build up their trade, build up their defenses. They massively fortify the line of the Euphrates River. They expand their army, and they train their army by breaking down what's left of the Crusader states. So in the 1260s, while the Mongols are fighting each other, the Mamluks are pulling down all the Crusader castles, all the Crusader cities, until by around 1280, there's only a few left. And that's when the Mongols re-invade. And a much more significant battle takes place, more significant in my opinion anyway, at the Battle of Holms, when the Mamluks meet the full strength of the Mongol field army, which is thought to have been between 60 and 80,000 troops. The Mamluks have about 30,000 troops, and the Mamluks do manage to defeat the Mongols. And so that, in my view, that's the turning point battle, because the Mamluks meet the Mongols at full strength and defeat them.
Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, follow and rate on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Every marketing tutorial out there insists it's really important that I hassle you about this, so I'm doing it right now. Also, if you'd like to, please support me on Patreon. This is a one-person podcast, as I always say. I do everything by my little old self. There's no team behind me. It's very sad, I know, but you can help by hopping on Patreon and finding the Smart Cookies podcast on there. And then last but certainly not least, as always, I have to thank my existing patrons, Tovarishin Tovarishice, absolute legends. Without you, there would be no Smart Cookies, which makes you actual producers of this show. So eternal thanks goes to Amy Jons, Matija Renčel, Florian Hauer, Peter Karba, Matija Zupančič, Dejan Žolnir, Derej Rok, Tržan, Saša Vipatnik, Neven Cvijanović, Juž Premrov, Sirkezi, Goran Ivašić, Anže Sever, Ole, Marin Ferrara, Aljaš Mahar, Štrole, Ajda Mancian, Miha Medved, Medinho, Goran, Gordon, Lorenzo, Jurečuk, Mila, Carmen Veronica, and Tai Chi. I am deeply touched, so thank you very much.